I have a full shop. I've got a pretty good rack of planes, chisels, some of which are ancient, some of which are 10 or 12 years old, some of which are 3 or 4 years old. Spoke shaves and scrapers, and obviously I built some toys and other kind of things around here. So glues, finishes, cleaners, and all the kind of stuff that you need to do a job. Got a few new tools for this job. Some of them were quite essential. First, I have not before had a hammer that had a brass or copper head, and this one happens to have interchangeable heads. Amazon for $11 or $12. It's got different grades of plastic too. This mallet we already had, obviously. This is not a new tool, but it's something that's essential. It's a nylon paintbrush. The nylon brushes will be much easier to paint the graphite paint on the inside of the body with. This is a fret saw. It's a StewMac fret saw at the exact gauge. Honestly, I think that these are just a normal saw that they put their label on and they set the width of the teeth on to make them the exact gauge, but it was worth it to get the right gauge and not have to worry about it, to just buy that. We have, and I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit so you can see this. We have already a miter box that a neighbor of mine gave to me a couple of years ago. It was an old tool, and this particular miter box happens to be very, very handy. However, it wouldn't lower enough to do our cuts, so I had to take an angle grinder and grind this out right here. But now it lowers to the right height, which that's going to be far too low, and the adjustment in this old Craftsman miter box fits this blade just perfectly. I've done a couple of test cuts with it. They're beautiful. Other tools that are new, I had a Dremel already, but it was really old, like 1970s. I got this Black & Decker for $27. The base here is a StewMac base. This thing costs $53. The reason for this is not for doing routing. I have a router for that. I actually have 3 routers for that. This is for routing for inlay. I'm going to have to buy a little better bit than this too. Some of those carbide bits are probably a good idea. But this is for routing clean inlay holes. And I didn't use my old Dremel because the old Dremel won't fit in the StewMac base. The thread is wrong. Okay. Bearings, guide bearings for a rabbiting bit. Looked all over the place for a bit to cut the rabbet or the groove around the top of the guitar and around the neck and headstock for binding. And I got to tell you, StewMac is the only place to get it. Nobody else has it. Even Grizzly said call StewMac. Router bit for routing the channel for the truss rod. Truss rod is just a little less than 1/4 of an inch. Took a very specific router bit, so it's 7/32 of an inch. If you route it out at 1/4, it's going to be too big a groove. Over here I have guitar lacquer, so nitrocellulose lacquer. I'm going to have to actually take my spray booth outside and remove the fan from it because it's not an explosion-proof fan, and this stuff is alcohol-based. Really bad idea to fill the air with alcohol and then add a spark to the equation. Super glue, I already have super glue, but this is brush on, very handy. It's got a built-in brush for using with the binding. Conductive shielding paint, already had this. Since I use a nylon brush on this, it doesn't absorb a whole lot of the shielding paint, it doesn't waste a lot of it. I used only about 3/8 of an inch of what was in this can for one guitar. That's pretty good. A sanding block. I do not have a fret file, so I'm going to try to get by without a fret leveling file. Okay, and I'm going to try to use this to level my frets on this first guitar. This is a fret scale ruler from StewMac. Cost $30–40. I think it is absolutely essential. You can use the charts and tables to set frets, and you can draw them out and you can measure each one of them, or you can use these things and they have a line for the nut and a line for the first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret. basically all the way down your scale until you got them all. This thing is amazing, especially when you're laying out the body of the guitar and you want to know where the 23rd fret is, because you want that to be, or the 18th fret, because that's where you want the second cutaway to come back into the body, because that's what you saw on another guitar and you counted them down. This thing is amazing. It's absolutely worth the money. And I say that because I've made mistakes doing woodworking before and measuring, and something that has the marks and the fret numbers on it is way better than using a ruler to measure the distance from each fret, and perhaps even compounding a mistake by making a wrong measurement on one of them. Buy this. Okay. Here's another tool. This is one that I've had for quite a while. It's a pair of dial calipers. In this particular case, they're plastic or composite. This one is manufactured for or by RCBS. RCBS is a firearms ammunition reloading company, so you should be able to get this at a reloading supply place. I really like these. I don't know how much they cost nowadays. This has been years ago that we bought these, but I like this particular one because it's plastic and it will not mar your guitar. It's a very handy thing to have. Metal ones are great too, but frankly, plastic's not going to scratch up your finish. And I go back and forth and take measurements off of guitars I already have, so that I can translate those to the guitars that I'm the guitar that I'm building. This is my first guitar, by the way. Okay, I got 5 of these. I got them because I'm going to be mixing. These are Nalgene bottles, and they are very well sealed, and they cost about $2.60 a piece at REI. They're great because I'm going to be mixing dyes to dye the wood, to color the wood. Use aniline dyes. Because the aniline dyes, or the water-based aniline dyes, are very light safe. They last a long time, the color does. And aniline dyes are easy to work with. They're safe to work with. They won't hurt you. They bring out the grain. Stains bury the grain of the wood inside of the stain. Aniline dyes don't bury the grain. Let me grab something here. I must have something that's dyed with an aniline dye within reach of me right now. And it's amazing that I don't, because usually I have, all kinds of things around that are dyed with aniline dyes. Here, let me just swing the camera around. That shelf on the wall, the yellow shelf, that's dyed with aniline dye 10 years ago. Okay, that's really yellow. Don't really have anything in this room that is other than that. But again, the bottle's really handy because we're going to mix 8 ounces at a time of this stuff. 8 ounces will go a long way. And then I got 5 bottles because I'm getting several new colors of dye, and I'm going to mix those with other colors of dye to try to create really fantastic, neat new colors. And I want to be able to save those. Down here, actual fret file that's rounded. This is a new tool to me. Everything else in this bag has been around for a while, but this is a fret file that's got the edge rounded off. It's also from StewMic. This is their medium one. I've been told that the medium one is the best one if you're only going to get one file, and right now I'm only going to get one. These are nut files for filing the string route in a nut, and they're very, very thin. They're gauged. I've had those for a while. This is a pair of pliers, diagonal cutters, for nipping model railroad track. Now, I did not feel like spending $30 to $50 on a pair of nippers just for fret wire. And in my opinion, after having tried them once, these work really well for nipping fret wire. They do the same kind of job that the fret wire nips do for a fraction of the cost. Got quite a few other tools here, none of which are brand new to this job. So that's what we got new to this job.